When you stop chasing what ignores your worth, heaven starts bringing what honors your value. There is a moment when your soul gets tired of settling, of stretching itself thin just to fit into places you were never called to be. That moment is holy. That moment is where the breaking stops and the building begins. We've been taught that love requires the constant pursuit, that faithfulness means staying even when you're forgotten, overlooked, or barely seen. But there comes a time when obedience to God looks like walking away from everything that fails to recognize what He put inside of you. You were never meant to beg to be seen. You were never meant to water yourself down just to quench someone else's shallow thirst. When God formed you, He didn't design you to be tolerated. He designed you to be treasured. But as long as you chase the ones who don't see it, you'll be blind to the ones who do. Heaven cannot send what honors you while you're still tied to what drains you. And sometimes the most painful thing God asks you to do is release what you thought you needed so He can give you what truly aligns with who you are becoming. It takes courage to stop chasing. It takes faith to stop knocking on doors that remain locked, to stop sitting at tables where your voice is drowned out by noise, to stop showing up in spaces where your presence is used but never honored. That kind of faith feels lonely at first. You will question if you made a mistake. You'll wonder if you walked away too soon. You'll battle the urge to go back just to feel seen again, even if it costs you your peace. But stay still, stay faithful, because what's coming will not ask you to shrink. When you stop chasing what ignores your worth, it's not a loss, it's a clearing. God begins to remove the counterfeit to make room for the real. You'll see people fade, opportunities close, doors shut quietly. But don't panic. The silence is not rejection, it's preparation. It's heaven moving things around, aligning what you can't see so that what is meant for you comes without confusion, without compromise, and without cost to your identity. And when it does come, when that person, that calling, that door appears, you won't have to fight to be seen. You won't have to perform to be accepted. You won't have to keep proving your worth, because what's sent by God will already recognize it. That is the beauty of value. When you finally realize what you carry, you stop trying to convince others of it. You stop explaining your worth to people who only want to use it for their benefit. You stop pouring living water into cracked vessels that were never meant to hold what you bring. Letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It means you trust God enough to believe that if something is meant for you, it won't require you to chase it. It will recognize your worth and come in alignment with your purpose. So many people are exhausted, not because they lack love, but because they are constantly pursuing people and places that were never assigned to their destiny. You can't receive heaven's best when your hands are full of what was only meant to be seasonal. You can't fly while carrying what keeps you grounded in brokenness, so let the chasing end, let the silence speak, let the absence grow your strength, and in that stillness, watch what begins to shift. You'll notice how much clearer your vision becomes. You'll start to feel lighter, freer, more in tune with who you truly are. That's the result of choosing alignment over attachment. That's the fruit of trusting that your worth isn't something to be proven. It's something to be protected. Heaven does not send what's sacred to those who cannot recognize its weight. When you step back from the noise, when you stop chasing what was never yours to keep, that's when what honors you will begin to appear. It may not come overnight, and it may not come in the way you expect, but it will come. And when it does, you will understand why the silence was necessary, why the separation was holy, and why letting go was the most powerful act of faith you could have made. Because what's from God never ignores your worth, it magnifies it. You were never created to be common. You weren't designed to fit into the mold, to blend in, to go unnoticed in rooms where you were meant to shift the atmosphere. There is something about your presence that holds weight, and the moment you begin to forget that life, people, and pressure will try to shrink you into something forgettable. But hear this, when you pull away, you're not disappearing, you're revealing your value. You remind the world you are not for everyone, you are for purpose. In a culture that begs for attention, where everyone is shouting to be seen, the rarest thing you can do is be silent. to not give access to everyone, to not be so available that your presence becomes expected instead of honored. The more frequently something is found, the more quickly it's forgotten. But what's rare, what's sacred, what's hard to reach, that's what's remembered. That's what's revered. So sometimes you must withdraw, not out of pride, but out of purpose. Not because you're better, but because you're aware of what God placed in you, aware of your time, your energy, your soul's worth. You don't reduce your light to make others comfortable. You guard it because it's holy. When you stop showing up everywhere, every time, for everyone, you allow room for them to miss you, to realize the space you carried, the weight you held. You allow them to sit with the silence and feel the difference. That's not manipulation, that's clarity. That's the shift from people, pleasing to purpose, living, and that shift, it's costly because not everyone will understand it. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're distant, but let them talk, let them wrestle, let them wonder. Growth is always misunderstood by those committed to your former version. The moment you understand that your presence is a gift, you begin to move differently. You begin to show up with intentionality, not desperation. You begin to walk into rooms not needing validation, but bringing value. You begin to discern who truly sees you and who just sees what they can take from you. And when that discernment comes, your circle tightens, your silence deepens, and your spirit strengthens. You were not called to be available to everything and everyone. Even Jesus slipped away to be alone, to pray, to recharge, to hear the voice that mattered most. So who told you that always showing up, always replying, always saying yes makes you righteous? It doesn't. Sometimes your no is sacred. Sometimes your silence is warfare. Sometimes your absence is the loudest message you can send. I am not common. I am not careless with my calling. I am not cheap with my soul. You see, when you constantly give yourself to places that don't value you, you're not walking in humility. You're allowing dishonor to speak louder than destiny. And destiny cannot thrive in environments that treat you as optional. So when you pull away, you're not abandoning people. You're answering a higher call. You're choosing the altar over the applause. You're choosing refinement over recognition. And in that space of distance, something shifts. They begin to see what you carried. They begin to miss what they mishandled. They begin to notice the silence that once was filled by your wisdom, your peace, your prayers. And that's not for ego, that's for alignment. That's what happens when a person finally starts to walk in the authority they were always meant to carry. Don't be afraid to retreat. Don't be afraid to be hidden for a season. Don't be afraid to let people sit in your absence and realize they were standing on ground they didn't deserve. Because your presence is not an accident. It's an assignment. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is pull back and let your absence do the talking. Let them miss you. Let them feel the gap. Let them remember who you are, not because you shouted it, but because your silence whispered it louder. You were never created to be common. You were never meant to be everywhere. You were born for something holy, so walk like it, move like it, and when needed, disappear like it, because sometimes the most valuable thing you can be is missed. Absence is not rejection, it's refinement. Sometimes God hides you not because you're forgotten, but because you're being prepared for something greater than the crowd can handle right now. In a world that equates visibility with value, hiding feels like punishment. But the truth is, some of the most powerful transformations happen when no one is watching. When God pulls you back, when He places you in a season where you feel unseen, unheard, untouched. That is not His silence, it's His strategy. We confuse visibility with progress. We assume that being on display means we're doing something right, but fruit doesn't grow under spotlights. It grows in the soil, in the dark, in the quiet. That's where roots deepen, that's where strength builds, and that's where purpose gets real. Sometimes, the only way God can get your full attention is to pull you away from what distracts you, attention, applause, people, plans, and anchor you in His presence. You're not being delayed, you're being developed. You may feel like no one sees what you're carrying, like your value has been tucked behind a curtain while others are celebrated, called forward, favored. But what you don't realize is this: God often covers what's precious. He conceals what's still being formed. You don't show off diamonds before they've been cut. You don't parade oil before it's been pressed. So if you feel hidden, it may just be because heaven is protecting what's holy inside of you. Refinement isn't a punishment, it's a privilege. God has a way of pulling his chosen into solitude, not because they're unworthy of the crowd, but because the crowd is not ready for the weight of what they carry. And if you release something too early, before it's sealed in the spirit, before it's anchored in truth, the world will tear it apart. So he hides you, he sets you aside, and in that secret place he works. He stretches you, humbles you, breaks you. Yes, but he also builds you, anoints you, and fills you with a fire that no platform can give and no person can take. It's in those quiet seasons you begin to realize what matters most. You lose the appetite for superficial validation. You stop trying to make yourself marketable and start becoming unshakable. The silence sharpens your ears. You hear God clearer. You learn to walk by faith, not by applause. You learn to obey without needing eyes on you. You stop moving for attention and start moving in alignment. And when that happens, when you've been refined in the fire, when your spirit has been grounded in obedience, that's when God begins to release you. Not as a celebrity, but as a vessel. You weren't meant to be seen prematurely. What's eternal takes time, and the weight of your calling demands that you not be revealed until the foundation is unmovable. That's why the wilderness exists. That's why seasons of isolation feel so long, because God is not interested in fast fame. He's interested in lasting impact. And to make that kind of impact, you have to be forged in the fire, not just formed by the crowd. So if you feel forgotten, you're not. You're being remembered in the most sacred way, by the one who hides what he loves. If the doors aren't opening, if the phone isn't ringing, if no one is calling your name, don't panic. Don't question your worth. Don't compromise just to be seen again. You are not invisible to heaven. You are simply being refined so that when you are seen, you'll be ready. There is a version of you being born in the silence that the world has not yet met. And when they finally do, it won't be because you forced your way in. It will be because God released you at the perfect time, in the perfect place, with the perfect weight of glory resting on your shoulders. So embrace the absence, welcome the hiding, trust the silence. You are not being buried, you are being planted. And when the time comes, when the roots have taken hold and the refinement is complete, you will rise, not to be praised, but to fulfill a purpose far greater than applause. Because absence isn't rejection, it's God preparing the room before you enter it.